Hello, this is Sandy from Sandy Over 70. What was it like to attend nursing school in the 1960s? Well, today I'm going to take you behind the scenes and tell you about my experience. If you're new here, please be sure to subscribe and click the little bell so that you can be notified when I post new content every weekend. So let me go back to my story. When I was a little girl in 5th grade, my hobby was going to the local library and checking out books. One day, I discovered a book called Sue Barton, Student Nurse. I read it from cover to cover and fell in love with this fictional character. There were 6 more books in the series, and I read the entire series at least 3 times. But what it did for me was convince me that I wanted to be a nurse. Now, in the 60s, for most little girls, we had 3 choices. We could be a nurse, a teacher, or a secretary. I wasn't interested in teacher or secretary. After reading Sue Barton's adventures and romance, that was the career for me, and so it was to be. In those days, almost every hospital had a school of nursing attached to it. This provided nursing students to staff in emergencies and supplement the staff on a daily basis. And also, it supplied a ready group of trained nurses for the hospital, since most of the nurses would remain on after they graduated. So my school was the Buffalo General Hospital, located in Buffalo, New York. There were many hospital schools in the city at that time, at least 7 or 8. So why did I choose this particular one? Well, for one thing, there was no tuition. In fact, none of the schools charged tuition except the one Catholic school. And again, the reason for this was, at that time, the hospital would utilize the students for staffing. But also at that time, it was the transition from training nurses in hospital schools to educating them in universities and to your colleges. And we were right on that brink. So we got the benefits of no tuition, free room and board for 3 years without ever having to staff the hospital. We were truly educated. In fact, we spent the first year at the State University at New York and accumulated 36 credits. We took a very heavy load. We were in classes 4 days a week, 18 credits per semester. And on the one day that we were free, we were in nursing classes all day at the hospital. The good thing was that within a very short time, as soon as they had taught us a few basic skills, we were put on the boards to practice them. So it was said that we came out ready to work. And we did. Our School of Nursing had been established in 1877. It was 1966 when I entered with the rest of my class. We were assigned a private room, which sounds nice, but it was a very old building. We did not have a private bath. We used the bathrooms down the halls where they had community showers and sinks. But I was very happy to have that private room because it was easier to study. Study hours were enforced. We had to be in our rooms with the doors closed between 6 and 8 and 10 and 12. We were allowed out to go about our business and could leave the building between 8 and 10. House mothers staffed the front desk. There was only one way in or out, and they guarded that mightily. We had to sign in and out. I remember one night when we were late coming back, and we were really nervous about getting caught. Somehow, we arranged to distract the house mother, and I and my friend crawled past the desk on the floor and through the double doors into the private area where the dorm rooms were. We didn't get caught that time. The first 9 months were considered a probationary period. That was the time we spent at the university and took our basic nursing classes. After 9 months, those who remained were kept. The capping ceremony was held in a beautiful music hall, and it was very moving. We practiced two-part harmony and sang songs, and a lot of tears were shed. I loved my cap. It was one of the reasons I chose Buffalo General Hospital School of Nursing. The cap wasn't hard, cardboardy like some of them. It was light as a feather. It was crinoline. As students, when we received our cap, it had no black bands or any other decoration on it. Everyone could tell we had passed our probationary period. When we appeared on the wards the next day wearing our cap, well, maybe not too many people noticed, but we sure did. We were so proud of that cap. Our nursing uniforms were blue and white. They were one piece. They were 100% cotton. They had our name stitched into it. Not our first name, just our last name with Miss. We purchased 12 uniforms upon entering, and we were given a bag to place the dirty uniforms in, put them out by the door once a week, and they came back washed, starched, and folded for us. So not only was our tuition free, but we got free room and board for 3 full years. We could eat as much as we wanted in the cafeteria, and I'm a very picky eater, but I really liked that food. Of course, housekeeping was provided. Our rooms were cleaned for us. The second year, since we weren't going to the university anymore, we concentrated on strictly nursing classes and getting clinical experience. By the time we were in the third year, they had built an entire new building for nursing students, and we moved into it. This was a little bit more modern version of a dormitory in that we shared rooms, and every 2 rooms had a bathroom in between. And since everything was new, we were thrilled to be in there. In that third year, we did our specialties. So we would spend 3 months in pediatrics at the local children's hospital, psychiatry in the psych unit in our own hospital. We were the first class who did not go to the state hospital for 3 months. We stayed in our own hospital. We did OBGYN in our own hospital, and we did 3 months of medical surgical nursing called Med-Surg. We went to school all year long. We were given 2 weeks off in the summer. We started in September of '66, and we graduated in June of 1969. Finally, we were graduating, and it was truly exciting because, again, it was held in a big hall, and the director of the school pinned our nursing school pin onto our uniform. Each school has a distinctive pin and a distinctive hat. Our classrooms were in the basement, and on each floor in the residence, we had a TV room. And also in the basement, there was a kitchenette where we were provided with milk and graham crackers and I think peanut butter and jelly for snacks. And we had a rickety old elevator that had an iron gate that you had to close. It was very slow. I can remember people yelling, "Hold the alley!" We practiced our basic nursing skills in a lab in the basement with dummies that were called Mrs. Chase. That's where we learned how to make a bed, how to give a bed bath, how to position a patient, all the things that you need to know before you work with real people. Of course, we had to get in the beds ourselves and practice making an occupied bed with each other in the bed. We had to practice turning and positioning each other, and this was very helpful, but it was also fun. When it came time to learn how to give an injection, we practiced on grapefruits. And then we had to give an injection to each other. Kind of scary. When it was my turn, I was very nervous, but I took the alcohol prep. I swabbed the area. I picked up the syringe. I jabbed it through the skin. I aspirated the barrel as I'd been taught, and I removed the syringe from my partner. Only one thing went wrong. I had not inserted the saline solution into my partner. It was still in the syringe. We had a good laugh over that one. And of course, I never did that again. The same thing with NG tubes or nasogastric tubes, which are long tubes that are inserted into your nose and down your throat and attached to a machine to suck out secretions from the stomach. Well, we were working in pairs, and I didn't have to have it inserted into my stomach, but I had to insert it into someone else's, which was, I think, more traumatic for me because it was my friend. IV solutions were in glass bottles, so we had to be very careful not to drop them. But every once in a while that did happen, and it made quite a mess. Also, nurses didn't start IVs in those days. We didn't have any kind of IV controllers, and so this is how I assured my patients were getting the right amount of IV solution. I stood there and counted the drops as they dripped for 15 seconds, multiplied it by 4, and that's how I knew how much solution my patient was getting and if it was the right amount. Kind of a scary thought now, but it really made us monitor our patients closely because we didn't want any runaway IVs. Patients stayed much longer in the hospital than they do now. So they were less sick when we were taking care of them. They were attached to much less equipment, and we focused on comfort measures and cleanliness. We were all taught how to give a simple back massage, and each patient received a back massage, if they wanted it, in the evening. They loved it. We also changed their draw sheet in the evening and made sure the bed was clean. Although there were private rooms in the hospital, the students mostly worked in the wards, and these wards were amazing. The smallest wards were 15 beds. The beds were placed in a semicircle around the nurse's desk. Behind the desk was all of the medications and other essentials. Unlike the photo above, there were privacy curtains between each patient. But still, that's a big room, but not as big as the 30-bed wards that we worked in. This photo shows all the beds lined up and down each side. By the time we got there, the beds were arranged a little differently to provide a little bit more privacy in groups of 4. The sickest patients were kept in the front toward the nurse's desk, whereas those who were on their way to getting well were kept in the back of these wards. They were truly amazing, and it's hard to believe that we had 30 patients in one room, but we did. In those days, we were called student nurses. Today, it's been changed to nursing students. Our residence was across the street from the hospital. And generally, we dashed back and forth across the street, but sometimes the weather was really bad in Buffalo. So we used the tunnel. The tunnel went under the street. It was lighted with a few bulbs. It was dark. It was kind of dirty, and one time I even saw a dead rat. It was not our preferred method of getting to the hospital, but occasionally we used it. When I think about it now, that couldn't have been really the safest thing for us. But at that time, nobody thought twice about it. At Christmas time, we went through the hospital caroling. We wore our capes. We seldom got an occasion to use them, so we loved putting them on. Our capes were made of heavy navy blue wool, and the inside was scarlet. We would pull the cape to the side and open it up to expose that beautiful scarlet color when we were being photographed. I wish I kept that cape, but I certainly don't have it anymore. At the entrance to the nurse's residence was a huge living room with a fireplace. Off to the sides, there were 4 smaller rooms, which were date rooms. Now, the main purpose of the house mothers, I think, was to make sure that men never got past those double French doors into the private dorm area, so they could see who was coming and going. We were allowed to bring our dates and sit in those date rooms on the little chairs and sofas. Of course, there was no doors on those date rooms, so you really couldn't do much of anything except talk. Well, every moment of nursing school for me was exciting. I loved every minute of it, and I had a long career. I eventually went back to school in the evenings and got a bachelor's degree in nursing, a master's degree in nursing, and I also became a family nurse practitioner, although I never worked in that field. As much as I loved nursing, I'm pretty sure that if I was that age now, I would never choose it as a career. And the reason is I love computers so much. I like making videos. I like working with computers. I didn't even own a computer until I was, I'd say, about 38 years old. So it's not like it's come natural to me. I've had to struggle. I'm actually glad that that wasn't an option because nursing gave me a wonderful life. I was able to move up at the hospital where I was working to wonderful positions where I had off every weekend, where I was able to create programs and feel great reward. It's been a really good life, and I'm very grateful. I hope you found this little story interesting, and I would love to hear from other nurses who went to 3-year nursing programs and how they feel about it today.